at SMUD, we have a plan or a goal of getting to zero carbon emissions in our power supply by 2030, which is pretty aggressive. I think it's probably the most aggressive in the nation. With that, as we start to transition our energy supply, we think there's an opportunity to help the region decarbonize as well. So transportation is the largest source of emissions within the state of California. And so again, as we start to clean up our own power supply, then there's that opportunity of helping the region decarbonize through the electrification of transportation as well. So we do have a goal, I think by 2030, of having 288,000 vehicles within our service territory, electric vehicles within our service territory, and I think that equates to about 1 million metric tons of carbon emissions taken out of the environment are reduced by that transition to electric vehicles. Absolutely. Yeah, so I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we're trying to figure out right now is how to get ahead of customers upsizing their panels and equipment, because I do own an electric vehicle. I had plans on charging at home and level 2 charging, and so I had planned on installing a level 2 charger. I don't even have one right now. I just plug into the wall. And so I do have workplace charging available through SMUD, which is awesome. But I work I'm at work. I go into work 3 days a week, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. But I am home then on Fridays through Mondays until Tuesday morning. And the slow charge at night works for me. And I don't need to have a level 2 charging. And I think some of the things that I'm concerned about or that we're concerned about are companies that are trying to sell, or upsize the charging equipment that may not be necessary based on really good. I think I've taken, obviously I do the trips to and from work. I drive about 30 miles one way, so 60 miles round trip each day. It works fine. I charge at night, or I'll charge during the day at work, or I'll charge at night over the weekends. And then I have taken it out of town, so I've gone to Napa and drove around, obviously wine tasting, and I probably shouldn't say that. Looking at the different scenery in Napa. And even taking it out of town, I thought I was a little bit stressed over it because but I did it on purpose just to see what it was like. And there were charging stations at different restaurants. There were charging stations around town. I think Napa has free charging in a lot of their parking lots, and so that was very convenient. And then when I needed to, there was actually fast chargers available as well. So through Electrify America, there were some charging stations that I was able to access and sit for 15 minutes while I drank a coffee and then be able to keep going. So it's been pretty easy. So some of the things that SMUD is doing is we participate in a statewide program that provides cash or money to customers who are looking at trading in a gas vehicle for an electric vehicle. And it's not based on the condition of the vehicle that's being traded in. It's actually income-based. So it's an income-based program. We also have incentives in terms of for charging equipment. We have electric vehicle rates that are cheaper with your charging off-peak, so that helps with affordability. But I think one of the biggest things that we're doing in terms of equity, as well as with the energy transition, as we transition the transportation sector, there's opportunities there for job creation. And I think that's probably the biggest key, is looking at how do we prepare people to be able to play in that space in terms of finding jobs that support electric vehicles. So right now we're working with community-based organizations to provide training on electric vehicle installations of the charging infrastructure. And so being able to then build the workforce required. I think we're estimating about 60,000 chargers being required, public chargers being needed within our service territory. Someone has to do that work, and so making sure that we are targeting the training. So actually right now we partner with the California Mobility Center. We partner with Sac State as well. There's a ramp-up factory that Sac State is looking at installing as well with the California Mobility Center. So a great partnership between the CMC, Sac State, and SMUD. So on the V2G side, I think the technology is coming along, and I'm pretty confident that the technology is going to get there. I think where we're going to see the challenges when it comes to vehicle to grid is really around that customer relationship. Who maintains that customer relationship? Who has access to dispatch those batteries back onto the system? I think that still needs to be figured out. I think the challenge is going to be, obviously the customer is going to want to be able to use those batteries when it's needed for their own usage. And then the utility obviously will want to use it for local grid conditions that are taking place. And then I can see the charging manufacturers or the equipment or the vehicle manufacturers wanting to leverage that as well and sell that energy back onto the larger market. So you'll see some aggregators playing in that space. I think you'll see utilities playing in that space. And so it'll be kind of this push and pull of who actually gets to do that dispatching and for what purpose, so that we're not stepping on each other.
Yeah.
So my husband and I had a big debate on this morning. So I think in the future, and I think we're starting to see it, where you've got, depending on your use case, you're going to have different usage for vehicles, right? Or whatever type of vehicle that you need. It may be for long haul trucking, may end up with hydrogen versus electric vehicles. I think in the future, the business model of the dealerships and auto manufacturers is going to have to change. A lot of the money that they get comes from the maintenance of those vehicles, either through parts or services. And that's not going to be there with these electric vehicles. There's not a whole lot to maintain. And so that they either need to recoup more of the money up front, or they need to figure out another way of making money. I actually think we'll start to see a subscription model for vehicles, so that you have access to different types of vehicles where the customer no longer owns the vehicle, but the dealership or maybe some other entity actually does own a fleet of vehicles, and you have a subscription based on what it is your use case is for today. So if I need to drive across the country because I'm taking a road trip, I may want to have a hydrogen vehicle instead of an electric vehicle, and so that is a different use case. And so I think there's advantages actually to the end consumer if we move towards that